Thanks, Nick. Yes, I am Lewis, and I am back for an all-new Keeping It Real. This month, I have got one movie to review, but after that, it's a whole lot of tech talk, so let's get started. Now, the review for this month, we have a third installment of the Bridget Jones story, and this one is called Bridget Jones's Baby. Renee Zellweger is back as the title character, Colin Firth returns as Mr. Darcy, and in absence of Hugh Grant's Daniel Cleaver, the third edge of this triangle is an American named Jack, played by Patrick Dempsey.
Know about him.
How much do you need to know? He has a pretty nice sized puppet.
And then the next week...
Give her a little kiss, on the forehead there. What's talking about the baby?
Mark, my ex and I had similar relations. Mr. Darcy.
Bridget Jones author Helen Fielding returns as the film's writer, with Emma Thompson appearing both as actor and co-writer. Also, the director of the first film, Sharon Maguire, returns to helm this project. Now first, let me say, welcome back, Renee. We missed you. It's been too long. 6 years, in fact. Her last movie was 2010's My Own Love Song, co-starring Forest Whitaker. But even after some odd speculations from online tabloids that she may have undergone plastic surgery based on her appearance in some red carpet photos, seeing her return to the big screen as Bridget Jones is, well, she looks like herself. That is to say, looking good as always. Just a few years on, and just like her character, a little older and somewhat wiser. Of course, 12 years is quite a gap for a sequel, not that that's ever stopped studios from doing it. Unlike this year's big tentpole productions from DC or Marvel, this is just a cute little comedy drama about a familiar character who many know so well, trying to navigate through some more unique circumstances in Greater London. And just as Zellweger managed to endear us to Helen Fielding's creation in the previous films, she doesn't seem to miss a beat here. Same goes for Colin Firth as Mark Darcy, her awkward suitor. He's just as stiff as you remember him. Screenwriters Fielding and Thompson also include enough millennial and hipster jokes to keep us current and reinforce the clash of Jones's Gen X status with her 20-something boss. So for fans of the original films, this will be a welcome entry. Now for me, as a non-fan, unfortunately, there were some pacing issues that I found difficult to ignore, no matter how endearing the characters. So I'm going to give this one 3.5 out of 5 stars, but overall, it is a fun date movie. Don't worry, fellas, it's not a chick flick. You will laugh too. This movie will be coming out September 16th. And now for the industry news. If you don't read the trades as often as I do, you might not be aware of a trend that's gaining support in the industry. It's called HFR, or high frame rate, and it's beginning to accompany a few large-scale 3D productions. Now, before I go into detail on this, some film history. As you've probably have been aware, when you go to the movies, you watch a series of still images flashing in front of you every second, specifically 24 of them. But while you may know the number, you might not know the reason behind it. It actually has to do with early sound films. When motion picture technicians in the 1920s figured out how to synchronize audio to picture by printing an optical track alongside the image on a film strip, it was discovered that the slowest speed a film strip could run through a projector before the sound became unintelligible was 24 frames per second.
Wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing yet. Wait a minute.
It was adopted as the technical standard and has been that way ever since. Fast forward to the 1980s. Douglas Trumbull is an Oscar-winning special effects technician and inventor responsible for the innovative visuals on 2001: A Space Odyssey, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and Blade Runner. Well, Trumbull developed a projection process known as ShowScan, utilizing 70mm film shown at 60 frames per second, or 2.5 times the standard rate. The idea was to more accurately record kinetic movement and eliminate motion blur, an artifact we associate with 24 frames and recognize in scenes with a lot of physical action. Think James Bond or Bruce Lee movies. It sounds good in theory, but unfortunately for Trumbull, audience responses were far from positive. They weren't used to seeing such smooth motion except on television. Also, large format film wasn't cheap even back then, so the process never really caught on. Cut to the late 2000s. Digital cinema cameras and projectors are now commonplace, and this allows obtaining and showing 3D content logistically easier than previously and without being as cost prohibitive. Productions like Avatar, Tron Legacy, and even Jackass 3D captured images natively at 24 frames in 3 dimensions. However, some audiences reported difficulty watching them in their native formats. The images appear too dark, eyes would strain to compensate for that, and this would actually cause headaches for some people. And it's been a problem studios and producers have been trying to solve. Cue Douglas Trumbull. His solution is to increase the frame rate exponentially, which would increase the 3D image brightness. Peter Jackson took that step forward with his Hobbit trilogy. His camera team shot all 3 movies at 48 frames per second, twice the going rate. Again, audience responses were mostly negative. The criticism was largely that the movies resembled a video game intro or a TV soap opera in Middle-earth. But this has not stopped other high-profile directors from taking a similar gamble. Reportedly, James Cameron is shooting his Avatar sequels in 60 frames.
48 and 60. They're both highly superior to 24. What I think is clear is we've got to get off 24.
Meanwhile, Trumbull proposes going higher than even that. His latest development, called Magi, is a high-resolution 3D process that captures and projects images at 120 frames a second. Now, the reason I'm telling you all of this is because you may soon be getting a chance to judge the look of this format for yourself. Two-time Oscar-winning director Ang Lee and his creative team have hitched their wagon onto the Trumbull HFR process for their latest film, Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. This will be the first theatrical feature to be fully filmed, edited, and projected in this high-resolution, high-frame 3D process. The goal is to immerse the viewer into places like the Iraq War in such a way as to make them feel like they're in the environment with the characters. An 11-minute clip screened at this year's National Association of Broadcasters convention in Las Vegas, and it received an enormous amount of positive praise. The movie is scheduled for a November 11th release with limited HFR screenings available. Be on the lookout, and if you see it, let us know what you think here at City of Warren. Well, that's going to do it for me. I am Lewis, and that is Keeping It Real.